The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Late night off because of the writer's strike. I've been training the LateBot. Today, LateBot wrote some jokes for me. I didn't even ask it to write jokes. We'll do those ones tomorrow because today, LateBot has a bit for us. You ready? My next guest is from Georgia. He's wearing a purple robe and a crown. He has a cheesy mustache and was recently named Monarch of the Realm. Please welcome Mr. Jeff Charlesworthy. Jeff Charlesworthy, everybody. If people bow down to you when you enter a room and it's not just because you're short, you might be the King of England. If your crown is even bigger than this mustache, you might be the King of England. If you've ever referred to your town as my kingdom, you might be the King of England. If your mom got you your job, you might be the King of England. And if you've ever been addressed as Your Majesty and you didn't correct the person, you might be the King of England. Not bad, LateBot. Mate Bargatze took some time to share some important information about a popular lizard species. Let's listen.
Hey, what's up? I'm stand-up comedian Nate Bargetze, and I'm here on behalf of all the herpetologists that get upset when you say Gila Monster instead of Gila Monster. It is pronounced Gila Monster, even though it's spelled G-I-L-A. It's pronounced Gila Monster. This is a serious thing. We got one right here, and yeah, just don't mispronounce it.
Yeah, the folks at the Forgotten Friend Reptile Sanctuary visited Nate at his rental house over the weekend in Lancaster County. Jesse Rothacker of the Forgotten Friend Reptile Sanctuary not only corrected Nate, he explained that a Gila monster is not poisonous, as is commonly assumed. That's good. But he explained that the Gila monster is venomous. Nate said, that's way worse. Jesse went on to explain, look, if the Gila monster bites you, you won't die, but you're going to want to die. Variety interviewed Hannah Gadsby and said, hey, you didn't mention Dave Chappelle in this recent special. Did you purposely leave him out, huh? And Hannah said, for a start, it's boring. There was a time in the tour when it was certainly in front of my mind, and then it quickly receded. My audience likes me because they don't like the usual toxic perspective, and to talk about him would to be center his conversation. I just don't want that voice to be dictating how I approach my work. I didn't think he said anything that I was interested in. That's what I would have had to do in order to talk about Dave Chappelle. I'd have to begin with Dave Chappelle, and I don't want to. I'm a genderqueer, autistic, vagina-wielding white person. There could be a really interesting conversation between us, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's good faith on his part. He's done 3 specials grinding down the same points without any change in nuance, so I think he's on his track. Good on him. That's not my track, and I'm not going to go out of my way to engage with that. And I think there's something also quite political about a queer gender performer expressing joy on stage. Well, would you be open to having a conversation with Dave Chappelle? And I said, apparently I have to do it on his terms, so no. I just think it's a toxic place. I don't think he's open. I don't think it's constructive. There's so much cruelty going on, and we both represent communities that are experiencing that cruelty, and I don't want to stand in direct opposition to that. There's nuance and there's intersectionality at play here, but he's not engaging in that yet, and I'm not going to make him. I'm not also going to be drawn in on his terms. I do think conversations at a point where we're not listening to people with lived experience anymore. We're listening to people who have really hostile, reactive views, and it's caught up in a moral panic, which also has a very, very strong right-wing online presence that's stirring up the debate, and it's fairly acknowledged. I want to come from a more constructive point of view, like I'm genderqueer, I have a life. It doesn't revolve around trying to justify my experience. Variety asked, all right, well, how do you feel about Netflix and its stance as a home for comedians with these varying opinions? Hannah said, if you want to change the conversation, you still have to be part of the conversation. So that's what really informed me with keep trying with this relationship. Part of it is I have the second special that we're working on now where I'm curating a lineup of fairly new genderqueer performers from around the world, trying to break it out of the American-centric idea. You know, everyone around the world has a humor, and I'm trying to do something constructive, trying to create more content. It doesn't sit easily all the time, but like I said, if you want to change the conversation, you really do have to step into the murky waters, don't you? The Free Press had a really good article titled, Can Joe Rogan Make Austin the Comedy Capital of America? The writer went to see Joe. Joe's up on stage riffing on getting COVID and says, imagine if I died. I talk so much stuff about the virus. Part of Joe's set ragged on the notion that men can get pregnant, and that got vigorous nodding and cheers. The writer says she wasn't allowed to photograph or record Rogan or the 4 other comics who performed. That way they could try out new material without risking online backlash. She writes, that gave them the freedom to follow Rogan's free-range footsteps, which they did to the delight of the crowd, with jokes about subjects like Leah Thomas, the Ivy League swimmer who took home an NCAA title as a trans woman, thongs, guns, and abortion. They meet up in the green room between the 7:30 and 10:30 shows. Rogan says, hey, with the grip of someone who is a double Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. She asks if his comedy club has a mission. Joe says, yeah, it's there on the wall. He points to a sign. The sign says, get it together, bitch. He explains, you'd be backstage getting ready to go, and Joey Diaz, who, by the way, some people have met Joey Diaz in real life and found them to be the worst person on the planet. Your experience may vary. And Joey Diaz would be like, get it together, bitch. Shock these MFers. And he'd start shaking and moving around. And you're like, all right, let's go. Rogan says the kind of comics he's putting up aren't the type that's afraid to touch, quote, third rail stand-up. And that's what he lives for. When people do risky subjects, it's my favorite stuff. We don't do it as an alternative to comedy. We do it because that is comedy. Rogan says the Mothership is his take on LA's Comedy Store, the club known for launching the likes of Richard Pryor, David Letterman, Robin Williams. His vision is to build up a club set up for comedians with a strong open mic program that won't throw performers under the bus for their material. Rogan says, we're just trying to make it a great creative space for stand-up, almost like a laboratory, like the best place to develop material. The article says it doesn't hurt that Rogan pays well by all accounts. Derek Poston, a former Comedy Store doorman turns comic, says, I'm rich now. I have Whole Foods money. Rogan says, the more that new people kill, the more that people that are above them get better, and we all get better. Iron sharpens iron in comedy. When you're around all these killers, it's like everybody gets better. On that particular night, the comedians were Fahim Anwar, Tony Hinchcliffe, who hosts Kill Tony, which if you haven't checked out Kill Tony, please do on YouTube or a podcast. It's pretty fantastic. Hinchcliffe counts of the Comedy Store and the Comedy Cellar in New York as the best clubs in the world, except for the audience. He says, the crowds that you get come from the cities they're in, and New York is insanely liberal, and LA has gotten insanely liberal. Hinchcliffe says the Comedy Store used to be considered the darker, edgier club in the country until the Mothership was built. Anwar chimes in, people kind of know what they're getting into when they walk through the doors of the Comedy Mothership. Rogan's rule, be funny. That's it. And if we can be funny with some stuff that you don't think should be funny, then that's wonderful. Let's explore this. Let's find out, what is that? What's going on here? What's up with the subject that everybody's scared of? Are we a cult? You know, when you start believing things that you inherently know aren't true, but you say them and repeat them because the cult wants you to do it, this is something you can exploit in stand-up comedy. And that's what stand-up comedy is all about. It's all about that. Then it was time to go, and Rogan said, I've got to kick you out. It's almost showtime.
Do you love your Peloton?
Oh, I sure do.
Well, I know you do because you started a podcast about one. If you love your Peloton and can't get enough of it and all the news that goes along with it, you should check out our show. It's called The Clip Out. It's a great place to go for instructor news, new classes, motivational tips, corporate machination.
We don't just tell you the news, we also give you our thoughts on why things are happening. And each week we also interview a member of the Peloton community. Sometimes it's, somebody like me, just a regular person riding their bike.
Sometimes it's Snooki.
You never know.
You never know.
The Clip Out is about anyone who loves their Peloton.
Every week we take you behind the scenes and inside the world of Peloton. The Clip Out is available wherever you get your podcasts, or check out our website,
theclipout.com.
I guess this is good news. You know, Please Don't Destroy. They do the pre-recorded sketches on Saturday Night Live. Kind of carried the season. I'll give Bowen Yang, Che, and Joe some credit there too, but I think Please Don't Destroy had the most hits. Well, their untitled movie, it was going to come out in theaters. Now it's going straight to Peacock. It'll be out November 17th. The movie centers on three childhood friends who live and work together and question where their lives are headed. If anywhere at all, completely ill-equipped and out of their element, they set off to find a lost treasure, rumored to be buried in their local mountains. Peacock, November 17th. I don't like this next item either. The Bear on FX. Did you watch The Bear? It's fantastic. Why are you upset, John? Because they're releasing all 10 episodes at once. Streamers, will you stop doing that? All right, I'm getting on my soapbox. Let me climb up here on the soapbox. 1, stop releasing things at 3 a.m. Eastern. It's god-awful annoying to wake up and have to avoid the internet all day so I don't find out what The Mandalorian did. Release stuff at 9 p.m. Eastern. Succession, you know the show everybody's talking about? We all watch it at the same time, so stop at the 3 a.m. 2, stop with the dump. Same thing, Succession. If they had put out all 8 episodes at once, some of you would be on episode 2. Some of us would be like, wait, I found out on the internet that such a thing happened to so-and-so? That's annoying. Stop with that. Anyway, FX is releasing all 10 episodes of The Bear on Thursday, June 22nd. That way, there'll be no buzz about the show. And like Cousin Keith, he watches everything in 1 second, so he'll be home and he'll text me, hey, did you watch all 10 episodes of The Bear yet? And I'll be like, no, I was recording a podcast, which is a ridiculous conversation to have, if you think about it. Season 2 of The Bear follows Carmen as they work to transform their grimy sandwich joint into a next-level spot. As they strip the restaurant down to its bones, the crew undertakes transformational journeys of their own, each forced to confront the past and reckon with who they want to be in the future. The only thing harder than running a restaurant is opening a new one. Anyway, The Bear is fantastic. If you haven't seen season 1, watch it. And you can binge it if you want. We all watched it last year, but this season 2 binge thing, all right, John, we get the point. Shut up. Kevin James is going to star in a new action comedy, Guns Up. Kevin James will play, this is going to shock you. Are you ready for this? You're not going to believe it. Kevin James is going to play an ex-cop. I know, right? And not only is he an ex-cop, he's a family man. I know, right? Kevin James, ex-cop family man, moonlights as a mob henchman. See, you didn't see that coming. When a job goes horribly wrong and both of his worlds collide, he has one night to get his family out of the city. It's a Kevin James movie. I mean, it's going to be Adam Sandler quality, right? Can't wait. Tony Danza reunited with his Taxi co-stars. He shared a photo on Instagram. He was having drinks with Carol Kane, Christopher Lloyd, and Judd Hirsch. I was kind of hoping Andy Kaufman would show up and reveal the whole thing was a hoax. Would that not be epic? Like 40 years later? Psych! Oh my God. I still kind of hope Andy Kaufman is doing that somewhere. Tony Danza captured the photo. Love these people so much. And hey, I want to apologize if I got you all hyped about the New Zealand International Comedy Festival and you hopped on a plane and you flew down there because you're like, I love Daily Comedy News. Johnny Mac said this show's really good. Let me get down there. I want to see some shows because Tuesday night shows were canceled. Yeah, all the festivals canceled Tuesday night, so I'm sorry if you flew all the way there. Hey, go see some scenery. It's pretty. You didn't have to fly home Wednesday morning. You could have hung around. Why they cancel the festival? Severe thunderstorms, heavy rain, and gale force winds lashed the country. Roads were flooded across Auckland. Motorists urged to avoid traveling. Around 3 o'clock local time, the Comedy Festival released a statement on Facebook and Insta and said, "We're devastated to cancel the comedian shows on the opening night of the first week of the 2023 New Zealand International Comedy Festival in Auckland. We're looking forward to shows going ahead as planned from tomorrow." And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. John, you're not going to tell us who's in New Zealand tomorrow? No. I feel bad if you fly all the way there and they cancel the show, so I'm not doing that today. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. Can I interest you in some meatballs made out of mammoth meat? No? All right, hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. It's a twice-a-week podcast where I share some upbeat stories like the dog who only will respond to commands if you use an Irish brogue. Or what about the guy who's filling potholes with noodles? Or the woman who, congratulations, she passed her driver's license. Oh, by the way, it was her 960th try. You heard me correctly. It's 5 Good News Stories. Nice, easy way to start your morning. 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your podcasts.